Welcome back to another video. So I like Zelda, but unfortunately, we don't get new Zelda games all that often. And when I say new, I'm talking like new. Yes, we get re-releases and remasters and even remakes. You know, there's like on the Switch alone, we got like the Link's Awakening remake, and then we got like Skyward Sword HD, and then back on the Wii U, we got Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, which I still don't understand why those aren't on Switch. And then we also got like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D on the 3DS. And those are all fine, you know, but they're not new games. So I'm going to talk about 5 Zelda inspired games. 3 of them are very heavily Zelda inspired. I mean, I don't want to call them ripoffs, but in a way that's kind of what they are. But 3 of them are very obviously inspired by Zelda, and 2 of the other games, they're kind of, you could see how they took inspiration from Zelda, but it's not like a blatant ripoff. I'm not doing full reviews. I'm just going to give a quick like take on it, show you some gameplay, move on. So let's just get started with the first game, which is probably one of the more well-known Zelda-inspired quote-unquote games, which is 3D Game Heroes. It is, if you take the original Zelda on the NES, the first game, and make it 3D, that's what this game is. And I'm not talking going from from Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time 3D. I'm talking like, no, this is still like pixelated 3D blocks, and somehow it still looks good. Like, considering it's on the PS3, the graphics are actually quite impressive. Like, if you've played Octopath Traveler on the Switch, or even PS4 or PS5, that's pixelated, but it still has like really nice like lighting, and that's exactly how 3D Game Heroes is. The lighting and like specifically like the reflection in the water from like the sunlight is like amazing. In this game, it's straight up Zelda. It doesn't really shy away from the fact that it knows it's a Zelda clone. You've got like the first temple or dungeon, I forget what they're called. It's called the Grass Temple, which is an obvious like take on the Forest Temple. And then I think there's like the Fire Temple and a Water Temple. I don't remember what they're called. They're all called because it's been so long since I played it. But it's very much, even the rooms in the dungeons look like the original Zelda, where you're going from like square room to square room. And, you know, you get similar items like bombs and boomerang and whatnot. And the sword is probably one of the biggest things in the game, because there's actually quite a few swords and it's kind of customizable. In the original Zelda game, if you had full health and you swung your sword, you'd shoot that like projectile. Well, in this game, it does. I don't know if there's any that give you projectiles, but you can get your sword, so when you swing it, it actually it's like a massive sword. There's one that you can get that when you swing it, it literally covers the whole screen. So you could just spam the attack as you go and just like kill everything as they show up on screen. It's just absurd. It's a awesome Zelda-inspired game, and unfortunately, it's still stuck on the PS3. So if you are interested in it, you should probably pick it up while you have the chance, because it hasn't been re-released. There's always that chance it's going to blow up in price and become stupid expensive, and nobody wants to pay a dumb amount of money for one game. So get it while you can. The next one I have is Reverie, and I have it on the Vita. It also came out on the PS4 and Switch. I don't know if it came out on Xbox or PS5. I mean, it came out on PS4, so it's backwards compatible, so that's whatever. But I don't know if this came out on Xbox or not. You might have to look into that. But physically, it did come out on the Vita, Switch, and PS4. This is once again, a straight-up Zelda game. It's got like 16-bit graphics. Imagine taking A Link to the Past and giving it Earthbound graphics, and that's what this game is. It's very like charming. It does kind of have that like you're like a kid going on an adventure. That, I don't know, it's a lighthearted adventure, I guess. Like, not to spoil the game, but like the first boss, or the first temple / boss, you go in your grandpa's basement and the boss is a washing machine. I think there's only like 5 or 6 temples in the game, and you don't get any like absurd items or anything. You'll get like goggles that let you dive underwater, and then you get like a shovel, and I think you get like a slingshot, you know, basic stuff. But it is a very fun, simple, and easy game. Actually, if you're into trophies, it is not that difficult. I think there's like one or two that give you a bit of a challenge, because there are mini games in there, and then you have to like achieve high scores. So other than that, it's actually an easy platinum if you're interested. Physically, the Vita version and the PS4 version, they weren't actually released in English. This is the Japanese version, but it was it does include the English version on it, and it's region free. So even though it's the Japanese version I can play the English version. I think the Switch version was released in North America. I'm not 100% sure. You might have to look into that. But yeah, Reverie, highly recommended if you're looking for a quick and easy Zelda game, or even a like easy platinum. Game number 3. I never really heard anybody talk about this game. I enjoyed it. Immortals Phoenix Rising. It's released on everything. Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Series X. To start off, before I even get into the game, this is a Ubisoft game. It is dirt cheap all the time. I just saw it at Best Buy the other day for like $10 on sale. Like, this is a fairly lengthy game for $10. But getting into the game, this is Ubisoft's attempt at making Breath of the Wild, and it's a Greek mythology. The main villain, he transforms some of the gods into like various things. Like I think Athena was turned into a tree. Hephaestus was turned into a robot. It's a very like kind of comical game. It does not take itself seriously. It's actually kind of funny. There's one moment where there's somebody that's telling Zeus a story, so the whole game is like narrated. And at one point he tells Zeus something. I forget what he said. But then Zeus he just replies with, "I don't know what you're smoking, but can I have some?" And that's like the tone of the game. It's very like just does not take itself seriously. But like going back to the gameplay, it's basically like Breath of the Wild. You have one big open world. You can go wherever you want. There's puzzles everywhere. It's actually a very like colorful game too. I don't really know what else to say about it other than it's a Greek mythology Zelda game. But I highly recommend it because it is cheap and it's fun. And if you want another Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom game, this one's actually not half bad. I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoy some aspects of it more so than Breath of the Wild, but I also enjoy certain things about Breath of the Wild that I don't like about this, but that's whatever. So those were the 3 games that were very like heavily Zelda inspired. These next 2 are kind of like you can see the inspiration, but they're not like blatant ripoffs. I know I already said that, but this one's probably more well known, but Okami. It is a 3D action adventure style game. It's got cel shaded graphics. Most of the items that you get are like brush strokes. Like you'd create like a circle and then put a line through it, and you'd create a bomb. It's stuff like that, you know, rather than actually just selecting the item and using it, you have to draw the item to use it. So it's a very different take on Zelda, but it does have like dungeons in it. They're not super puzzle heavy, if I remember. It had been quite a while since I played it, but you know, it is a lengthy game. I will say though that the end feels kind of dragged out because you've got to refight all the bosses. But that's classic Capcom. You know, like Mega Man, you had to always fight all the bosses at the end. But this is actually a really good game. It has since been re-released on the Wii, the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, so it's very accessible right now. I would much more recommend the Switch, PlayStation, or Xbox versions over this, or the Wii version, because those are in HD. You know, the Wii version uses motion controls. I haven't played that one, but I highly recommend Okami. There is another one on the DS called Okami Den. I think it's a prequel, but that's another one to look into, just as a FYI. And this last one, I have very controversial opinions. I wouldn't say controversial. So this last one is It has an issue, and I'll get to it. Pandora's Tower on the Wii. Pandora's Tower is an action adventure game. Take like the dungeons from Zelda and just make a game out of that. Like there's no real like in between explorations or overworld. You have like your home base, which is called the observatory, and you just go there to the towers. And the towers they're not super puzzle heavy, but they are puzzle heavy enough that it does make me think of Zelda. You don't really get any items or anything. You just have your chain, which you use for pretty much everything. And then you have your weapon, which you start with a sword, and you can eventually get like a scythe and whatnot and upgrade them. The bosses are actually puzzle heavy too. Some of them are kind of tricky, at least a couple of the later ones. I kind of can't recommend this game. As much as I enjoy it, there is a big issue with it. The North American version has a game-breaking bug in it. When you get to the 11th and 12th tower, for whatever reason, when you get those two towers, if you try to go to one of them, the console will just lock up. When you get to that loading screen that loads the tower, it just locks up. When I played this, I looked online, there's all kinds of like things people have suggested to get past the lockup. And I managed to get past it once, but it was a pain in the ass. So if you plan on playing this, when you finish the 10th tower, that might be where you end the game, because I tried for so long to get to the fucking towers or get back to those towers, and I just couldn't do it. Like I've fidgeted with the game so much to get there the first time. And the reason why, like, I had to leave so I could like restore my health and all that stuff. And then when I tried to go back, I just couldn't get back there. And part of the reason why you have to leave is because there is unfortunately like a time limit. That's the one complaint I have about the game, aside from the game breaking bug. Because the story about the story is there's a girl that has a curse, and she's like slowly transforming into a monster unless you feed her flesh. And so when you're in the tower, you have this timer that goes down. So you have to go get flesh and take it back to her. And when you beat a boss, you get what's called a master flesh, and she's got to eat all 13 of them to get rid of the curse. So it's a great game. I don't like the time limit, but the freezing sucks. So as far as I'm concerned, I beat the game. The game ended for me when I finished the 10th tower. It's not worth trying to fidget with it. I heard that only the English version has that issue. So if you can, get like the European version, because I haven't heard anything about that having issues. But yeah, those were my 5 Zelda games. There are some other ones that I'd like to try that I haven't gotten around to, specifically Tunic. You know, I mean, you look at the character on that, it's a fox dressed in a green tunic, just like Link. And there's other ones that I've seen, but I haven't actively like looked into. I think one of them is called Sparklight. But yeah, if there's Zelda games that you like that aren't actually Zelda games, they're called something else, let me know in the comments, because I'm interested. I'd like to look into more. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.